Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to learn how to make elderberry syrup. Now, you may have saw my video in the past how to make an elderberry syrup, but I'm just going to go ahead and dive right in and share with you how to make elderberry syrup again. Now, here's my little cup that I drink my elderberry syrup out of every day. Here's the elderberry syrup that I made last year. This is the last of it, and I thought I better get busy and make some more. I'm going to go ahead and take my dose of elderberry syrup this morning. I shake it up really well. And there you go. That'll be my daily dose of elderberry syrup. That's also what my husband takes. He's got a little glass of his own, and he takes his elderberry syrup every morning. And there's just a little bit left in this bottle. And I've got to make enough elderberry syrup for the coming year. I've saved these bottles from avocado oil. You can use these darker bottles that you buy your oils and things in. Save them, wash them really good. Sterilize them before you add your elderberry syrup to them. And they make great storage containers for your elderberry syrup. Now, elderberry syrup is high in vitamin C. It's one of the highest berries in vitamin C. You can get almost your whole day's worth of vitamin C, 98% of vitamin C in an ounce of elderberries. They have high oxidant power. They promote heart health. Lowers inflammation and stress. And it's mainly known that for the fact that it boosts your immune system. It's good for respiratory and lung health. It's high in fiber, good for blood sugar management. Now, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, you wouldn't want to use elderberries of any kind. But if you have autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, consult your healthcare provider before you take elderberry syrup. These are just some smart things to let you know up front in case, you decide it may or may not be for you. I always do your research, nobody knows your circumstances like you know your circumstances. And when it comes to your health, you always want to consult a healthcare provider. Now, elderberry's been around since the beginning of time. The Aztecs used it. Native Americans used it. That's where we got it. We learned it from was Native Americans. We are from the Appalachians, Cherokee bloodline. We have Cherokee in our bloodline, and we used a lot of things from the mountains there. Elderberries grow almost everywhere. They're easy to find. Now, there's something you may want to do is understand that uncooked elderberries should never be eaten or consumed in any way. You have to process your elderberries if you want to consume them, but they are well worth consuming because the wonderful effects of them are excellent. It's something well worth having. It's a, most wonderful immune health stimulator. It supports your immunes. It's antiviral, phytonutrients, and anthocyanins. It's just wonderful. It can decrease pain, inflammation, and just so many wonderful attributes to elderberry syrup. Now, this is a simple elderberry syrup recipe. Well, when we were growing up, they just made a syrup from the elderberries. No sugar, no honey, nothing. It was just elderberry syrup that had been processed, and it was kind of tasteless and not all that great. Now we're adding other wonderful things to the elderberries to make them even greater. We've got ginger here. I've got my ginger in the form of a tincture. We've got cloves. I just add 4 cloves. Cinnamon. I used to use cinnamon sticks, but I have since learned that I like the syrup so much better just adding the cinnamon. So much more cinnamon flavor. And then we add 1 or 2 cayenne peppers because it just enhances the elderberries and takes them up a notch. That's the ingredients for our elderberry syrup. And of course, we'll add water to the dried elderberries. That ratio is 4 cups of water to 1 cup of elderberries. Say 4 cups of water to 1 cup of dried elderberries. I'm going ahead and add 8 cups of water because I'm going to double this recipe like I so often do. I often double my recipes. I'm going to go ahead and get this turned up on, I'd say medium-high, and then I'm going to add my 2 cups of elderberries. This is a little 2-cup measuring container. This is a silicone pack that I put in with my dried elderberries to absorb any moisture so that they don't mold. Okay, I've got my water here. I've got my 8 cups of water, my 2 cups of elderberries. I'm going to let these come to a boil, a low simmer, and I'm going to simmer these for about 10 minutes. You probably see a whole lot of different recipes for elderberries. If you're interested in elderberries and you've looked up, there's a lot of things going on, and a lot of people got a different recipes for their elderberry syrup. Now, if you're using fresh elderberries, which you certainly can, fresh would be considered picked, that, you know, in the times when the elderberries have ripened, those would be fresh off the bush, and they're also considered fresh if you're using them from the freezer, because from the freezer they're not dried. They're considered fresh, and for those fresh elderberries, you would need 2 cups of fresh elderberries, or frozen, to 4 cups of water. You only need 1 cup of dried elderberries per 4 cups of water. Just imagine the dried elderberries are more potent. Now I'm going to cut up my little pepper. I've got 2 peppers today. I decided I was going to make this little elderberry syrup just a bit more spicier than it's been. So I'm going to cut these up, and these I'm going to add to my elderberries over here. I'm going to boil these peppers with my elderberries. I've got seeds and all because I'll be straining my elderberries out of here. Add my peppers right in. I want them to infuse well with the elderberries. Same deal with my cloves. I add about 4 cloves per recipe. You can add more or less, adjust it to your taste or what you need. Cloves are wonderful, wonderful herb in their own right. They have so many wonderful qualities. I'm throwing those in there. I'm going to go ahead and add my cinnamon. I think some folks like to add the cinnamon sticks because they're easier during a straining process. They're bigger and easier to strain them out. I, however, have learned to use ground cinnamon. I did it because the ground cinnamon was all I had on hand one day, and I thought, oh my goodness, the flavor is so good and the cinnamon stays in the elderberry syrup, and I thought from now on I will always be using ground cinnamon instead of the cinnamon sticks. I will always use the ground cinnamon. The same goes with ground ginger. I make a tincture for my ginger. I have ginger tincture here. I'm putting 1/4 cup of chopped ginger and tincture in. That gives it the strength and the flavor that I need. Now I'll be stirring this all together and letting this steep for 10 minutes. So I just bring it up to a good full boil. I don't know if you can see that through this cloud of steam, but once it starts boiling, I just pour it down, just turn it down to where it's a simmering boil. The elderberries need the processing time. You have to process them before you can consume them. It's not something you can consume raw. Always keep that in mind. We never eat raw elderberries. Now, while you're waiting for your elderberries to simmer for the 10 minutes, I'm going to go ahead and put them on a timer. That way I know they're simmered their whole 10 minutes. Not only are you processing your elderberries, but you're also sterilizing. Anything that's boiling for 10 minutes is sterilized, right? In general, that's a general rule. If you boil something for 10 minutes, it's sterilizing it. While everything is simmering over there for its 10 minutes, I've went ahead and got my containers out that I'm going to put my syrup in. I may need one more, we'll see. But these are avocado bottles that I have. This one might be an olive oil bottle, but I've saved these. It's 2 glass ones and then 1 plastic one. Now I have washed these up and sterilized them. They're thoroughly dry inside. So I'm going to open these up and get these ready, because when I strain my elderberries, I'll need my containers to put them in. Now, normally, used to in the past, I would just put it in gallon containers, gallon plastic jugs, you know, that I had saved, and I would refill my same container every time it emptied. You know, I'd wash my container and fill it back up, and that's how I would have my elderberry syrup all year. Now, there's a lot of debate. There's a lot of people that think that it won't last very long in the refrigerator. I make 1 batch most of the time. Sometimes I'll have to add another batch in the middle of the year, depending on what's been going on. But a lot of times I just make 1 batch of elderberry syrup. I've got a refrigerator downstairs, and I store it closed up in that refrigerator downstairs. And we take our elderberry syrup all year. Never had any problems. I don't like to can elderberry syrup because the temperatures that you have to can, that kills bacteria. Will also kill some of the good qualities that you have in your elderberry syrup. So if that helps, this is just the way I do it. I'm sharing my recipe with you and letting you know why I do what I do. Now, these containers are ready for my syrup when it comes out. Of course, I'll have to let it cool, especially before I put it in this plastic container. I always put my elderberry in this glass. I don't put it in clear jars if I can help it. I have put it in clear jars in the past, but I like to keep it in the amber or dark bottles. In this case, these are green. For the same reason they sell avocado oil and olive oil in these tinted bottles. It keeps them from going rancid. It allows the quality to be better and last longer, and that's what we want for our elderberry syrup. So I'm reusing those containers. I have my notes here, and even though I've made elderberry syrup for a very long time and I'm very familiar with it, I like to refer back to my notes. Because I don't make elderberry syrup every year, probably twice a year is only times that I make it. We do grow our own elderberries, and we dry those and have them ready for our recipes. And I like to take my recipe and kind of keep my elderberry syrup consistent. This year I did add 1 more pepper. It's got 1 cayenne pepper, and I decided we needed more pepper this year, so I added another pepper. But this is the general recipe right here. You're welcome to screenshot it. Here are all of my notes that I refer back to so that I make sure that I don't forget anything. People with autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis or lupus should consult their healthcare provider before taking. And the reason for that is, theoretically, if you have an overactive immune system and you're taking an immune system stimulant, which is what elderberry would be, then that could make your autoimmune disease get out of order. So you want to be careful about that. You want to make sure you consult your health care provider that generally takes care of you in that case. And you always want to weigh everything out. before you take anything, be that anything over the counter, any kind of medications. You want to research them and see what they're doing for you. This elderberry syrup is not a medication, but it's just an enhancer, a dietary enhancer that can really stimulate your immune system or help you through an illness. In fact, it's been proven to work as good as the flu medications they give you. So just keep that in mind, that how powerful this good syrup would be, you know, if you were sick. It's activates your immune system. It has the really good anthracytokines. When you process them, you dry them out and heat this, which is what we're doing now. That's what increases these, and it makes your syrup stronger and more helpful. So there's just, you can do research on your elderberry syrup. This is my research. I like to refresh myself every year when I make it, even though I have an idea of what it's all about. I still like to refresh myself on my notes. I've had these notes for a long time. It's a natural remedy used for colds and flu, and black elderberry has health benefits, amazing for your immune system, especially for viruses. Drying and heat eliminates cyanide 100%, no cyanide after processing. Also, actually, the cyanide changes into the anthocyanins, and that is what makes this syrup effective. That's what gives it a wonderful benefit. You never consume raw elderberries. We've went over that. Phytonutrients used for thousands of years, Native Americans, ancient Egyptians. It stood the test of time, and these are all the things that you can benefit from. It reduces pain, inflammation, swelling, urination, gas, expectorant, blood sugars, damage from UV radiation, uric acid, mainly known as antiviral, increases cytokines and therefore increases immunity. So isn't that wonderful? So that's just wonderful benefits of the elderberry. We have elderberry. We harvested elderberry from a property that we know, and we also bought an elderberry bush. So however you acquire your elderberry, if you're interested in having your own elderberry, that's an awesome thing to know. We've just got 1 minute and 17 seconds there to go, and then our elderberries will be ready to strain. What I do, I generally let this cool off. I go ahead and process it for the 10 minutes. You can even process it longer. I'd say the least amount of time would be 10 minutes. And then, if you wanted these to sit here, you could even take longer to process them. You can see it's already drawing the juice. The heating process is already drawing the juice out of the berries, drawing the good stuff out, making you some good elderberry juice right from those dried elderberries. Just got a few more seconds left, and then I'm going to put a lid on this, let this cool, so it'll be easier to strain and easier to manage. I'm just going to leave those elderberries in there as it cools. And then we'll continue with our elderberry process. Okay, now our syrup has steeped. We've got all the goodness out of our elderberries and our other ingredients that we put in here. So we're going to go ahead and strain it. We're going to run it through a little strainer here and then put it in our bottles. Now I have used a coffee filter and done a really extensive straining, but I'm just using this little strainer right over this little pouring thing, And I'll strain this several times. Strain it into here as many times as it takes so I can fill my bottles up. Now I've got my pot here, and I'm just going to carefully pour it through here. And you can see it's catching all of the elderberries. I'm going to put this into the compost bucket. And I'm going to go ahead and use this elderberry syrup that's in here. Now there's something that I didn't put in here, and that's the honey. I don't put the honey into the syrup until after it's cooled off. When you have these little bottles like this that you've saved to put your elderberry syrup in, it comes with this little adapter inside that makes it easy for you to pour. I just pop that out. And I've got a funnel, so I'm going to use a funnel in here. And I'm just going to pour the elderberry syrup. I'm going to put this about half full, and then I'm going ahead and add the syrup. The honey. We're not adding the honey until our syrup has cooled off a little bit. This is still warm. You can add as much honey as you would like. I'm adding about a cup of honey. This is about a cup of honey. We'll let it drip on down in here. You can see the honey's dripping. And then I'll pour the remainder of the syrup in here. And then we'll shake it up really good. And I shake it up really good every time I take it. Right before I take this elderberry syrup, I'll shake it up really good. Now we'll just pour some of the kind of warm elderberry syrup in behind. Now I'll keep doing this until I get my syrups all bottled up. And there we go. That's our elderberry syrup. Now I'm going to have to put a label on this. Make sure the area where you put your label's good and clean. I'm going to take my elderberry 24 label, and I'm going to put it right on here. And I'll keep doing this until I get all of my bottles filled with my elderberry syrup that I've got here. And there we go. That's our elderberry syrup for this coming year. I'll put them and store them in the refrigerator. You might get people saying you can't store it that way, it'll only last a few weeks or whatever, but that's not true. This is how we've always done it. I store my elderberry in a really cold refrigerator that's downstairs. You saw the way I bottled it. It's got honey and acid from the berries, and that elderberry usually lasts us a whole year. Now I'm going to go ahead and bottle my other 2 bottles. Thank you for joining me. I hope this helped you in some way. I hope it encouraged you and gave you some ideas and some knowledge about elderberry syrup. I hope you have a wonderful day and that you subscribe, like, and share, and come back if this is the kind of content you like. Thank you for joining me. And like always, until next time.